More kids have died of measles in this country this year than, in decades.
Well, if you want to get into that, we can talk about the open southern border and what caused that. Because you had an inflation over 20 million people that came over illegally underneath the Biden administration that wasn't vaccinated. We're not talking about measles outbreaks from kids that were born and raised here inside the United States. We're talking about ones that were brought over here illegally. And you can make that connection. No one can argue that.
Okay. Well, sir, I think we actually are.
That's CNN host and woman with an appropriate sounding name, Kasie Hunt, trying to corner Senator Markwayne Mullin with a dishonest gotcha question about the CDC and RFK Jr., only to immediately tap out the instant he flips it back on her. Welcome to Nerk News, I'm Nerkish, and it looks like CNN would rather smear someone who isn't in the pocket of pharmaceutical companies than confront America's health collapse. Because the moment someone asks why the richest country on earth is getting sicker and dying younger, the media police show up to issue citations for thought crimes. Here's Senator Markwayne Mullin laying out the basic reality CNN keeps trying to dodge.
Why are we the sickest nation in the world? Kasie, we should be asking that question. What is wrong with saying, okay, if in 1950 we were at 3% chronic illness, today we're at 76. In 1950 we were one of the healthiest nations. Today we're the sickest nation in the world. Where has CDC succeeded? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. What Bobby is doing, or Secretary Kennedy is doing, is he's going in there and he's questioning things, saying, hey, we need to look at every aspect. There isn't anything that should be unlooked at. Just because it's science and we think it's proven science, science is always changing.
The issue being that the CDC resignations came because, according to the now ousted CDC director, who was appointed by President Trump, she was asked to accept vaccine recommendations around the children's vaccine schedule that she didn't want to accept. And that schedule is something that affects every American and what they're able to do. Are you comfortable with the way that board has changed, considering what Ms. Menarez says?
Absolutely correct. I mean, I actually am. Here's what I know about business, and I'll take CDC as a business for just a second, because we all make decisions based on two things: the way we're raised and our life experiences. Business is my life. I know that you need to hire right, and you need to fire right, and everybody you hire isn't actually the right person. Sometimes you got to fire that person too. And if they're not working with your direction that you're wanting to move, either in that organization or they were part of the organization before you got there, sometimes they just don't belong anymore. And when you have a failing business, if you take over a company, you have a failing business, not everybody's going to be successful that works there because it was failing for a reason. CDC has been failing. We know that by just looking at statistics of where we were in 1950 to where we are today with chronic illness alone, we know it's failing. So there has to be changes made.
Mullin's point should be common sense. If America spends the most, why are outcomes collapsing? I mean, you can't brag about the experts while obesity, diabetes, and chronic illness keep exploding. The reality is people are finally starting to see the scam. Big food sells junk, big pharma sells the pills, regulators run interference, and establishment media scolds anyone who notices, while liberals try to rebrand it all as healthy. RFK Jr. isn't some cartoon villain. He's saying investigate the root causes like ultra-processed food, chemical exposure, and perverse incentives for those supposedly in charge, all while protecting personal choice. That doesn't mean banning vaccines, it means transparency, risk stratification, and informed consent without mandates. Because the current status quo liberals are protecting is a profit machine and not a system for healthcare. Trump correctly calls that out as an 80-20 issue by fixing the foundation, stopping the coercion, and letting adults make choices, which used to be something Democrats pretended to care about. Here's Jesse Waters connecting the dots on why the left is suddenly panicking about Trump and RFK Jr. on these issues.
Jesse, I can't psychoanalyze craziness, but I can tell you that Democrats are on the wrong side of history. The two most popular political figures in America right now are President Trump and Secretary Kennedy. And I think a lot of that is because they were right on this MAGA message. Every single mom here watching is concerned about the cascading rates of autism, of diabetes, of cancer, of heart disease, of almost every single chronic condition skyrocketing among children. We have the highest rates, for instance, of pediatric cancer in the world. All these conditions are exploding. And Bobby sending a message, putting a light with President Trump's full support on that mission is waking the country up. The second problem the Democrats have is that Bobby and President Trump are winning. In just a year, in just the first year of MAHA, Jesse, baby formula standards reformed, food dyes eliminated, fluoride in water removed, academic freedom restored at the NIH, vaccine injury acknowledged, drug prices lowered, child mutilation, which many leading people at the CDC were supporting until their final day, that's ended. Nutrition guidelines will be reformed. Nutrition education med school will be instituted. And the FDA this year, Jesse, the FDA will approve more drugs. We will see more innovation than at any time in American history.
You know, Trump and RFK are actually forcing the debates the left has been avoiding for years about things like the border, corruption, and health. I mean, CNN would love you to forget that their experts blew it for years, which is why they treat any dissent like heresy. This panic isn't about public health, it's about power. Because once people ask why chronic disease exploded while elites cashed in, the whole media bureaucracy activist machine gets exposed. Trump's message is simple: make life normal, affordable, and free again. RFK Jr.'s is simple too: make health honest again. Put those two together and it terrifies the regime because it shows the whole racket for what it is. But let me know what you think. How do you feel about RFK Jr. and his positions on health in America? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye.